Hey, everybody. Welcome to What Drives Us, episode 280 for June 13th, 2018. My name is Russell Frost. I have the good fortune to be your host this evening. And with me, a fine selection of panelists who can easily manipulate me throughout the evening. So look forward to an exciting evening of fireworks and who knows what. Maybe it'll just be regular news stuff. Let's introduce them and let's get on the road. My wingman on this show, he is the operator of the Prius Prime in Chicago, Illinois. I like to think of him as Tony Schaefer.
Hey, everybody. A shout out this week to Zachary, first in the chat room. So there it is. See, it's going to be a new contest now. Whoever's whoever's first in the chat room. Gets a shout out. Also a shout out to Mr. Leinenkugel, who brews some spectacular beer. And just a little note, I do usually drive a Prius Prime, but I have not driven that car in about a week and a half. Is anyone going to ask?
How's that possible, Tony?
Why? What are you driving instead?
It's funny you should ask. We should have rehearsed.
Yeah, that would have helped. Given our record, that would have helped a lot.
So last week I had a RAV4 Hybrid, 2018 RAV4 Hybrid. You'll be seeing a video review of that on our YouTube channel at some point in the near future. This week I have a Kia Niro plug-in electric hybrid.
Ooh.
Wow.
And is the Kia as good as the RAV?
You know what? The Kia is a damn nice car.
Wow.
The Kia is damn nice. There is one or two sticking points, but otherwise, I've really enjoyed driving that car.
Wow.
I believe Kia likes to think of it as a Niro.
Whatever.
The first time I reviewed the Niro, I called it a Niro the whole time, and then somebody at one point said, "Oh no, it's Niro," and I was like, "Oh well."
Unless it's on fire.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, you know what? If I buy the damn thing, I'm going to call it whatever I want.
Yeah.
Let's get on with the introduction so we can get this show going. The man, well, at least on my screen next to him, he drives a brand new shiny red Tesla Model 3. His name is Mark Coughlin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. And we've got a ton of stuff to get through, so let's get going.
Diete Pepsi this week?
It's not here. I drank it during the earlier show.
Don't
want to get too crazy and have two in one night. Look out.
Well, speaking of two in one night, our second Tesla owner has a Leaf and a Tesla and God knows what else in his garage. Maybe chopped up bodies in a big freezer. I like to think of him as our man from Portland, Mr. Patrick Connor.
Hello, whenever and wherever you are. A warm welcome from Oregon. Buckle up. It's going to be a fun show. We got two Portlanders on here who are going to disagree a lot.
I love that. Yay! Well, speaking of the other Portlander, you've seen him on this show before. He is a writer for Daily Kanban, and he has a new article on the Daily Beast. Ooh. But he's written for numerous other articles. Automotive journalist extraordinaire, Mr. Ed Niedermeyer.
Everybody, thanks for having me on. Cheers.
Oh, we're drinking booze tonight.
Drinking booze, out of beer. So a little Hibiki, the Japanese whiskey here. So,
oh, nice.
Hey, nice. Russell, I think it's Niedermeyer.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I've always called it the Niro too, but now that you mention it, I think the association with fires, like that burned down entire cities in history, probably indicates that they don't want it called the Niro. They probably would much prefer the Niro.
I thought Nero was a more elegant pronunciation. Yeah, Nero was kind of clunky.
Yeah.
But
and besides, who really knows who Nero was at this point anyway?
Well, like, yeah, I mean, please, given the state of our educational system.
I think he was the mayor of Chicago at one point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A Trump property manager, perhaps. Yes, I went there. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, last but definitely not least, he is the founder of Boulder Hybrids in Boulder, Colorado, a man of extraordinary technical knowledge and an impressive beer fridge, Mr. Paul Guzik.
Everybody, glad to be back. My summer beer is, what is this called? A Radler, something or other, citrusy. It's not a Colorado beverage. It's from Kansas City, Missouri. But hey,
Wow.
someone brought it here, so we'll drink it.
Right on. I was going to say Murphy's, good old Murphy's Stout tonight, kids.
Love the Murphy's.
And you know, I
that
haven't
more of a
really had
winter
anything to
beer?
eat, so I'm gonna be lost by the end of this episode.
Mhm.
Ed's drinking whiskey. I'm drinking on an empty stomach. It's gonna be a good night. Let's get into it. The first thing I wanted to talk about this evening is, you know, Mr. Tony Schaefer there. Where is he? Right there. That's Tony Schaefer. That was a Brady Bunch moment. Mr. Tony Schaefer has
Push your head.
started producing something that I never, ever thought I would be enthusiastic about. And I'm not feigning enthusiasm here. I'm expressing genuine enthusiasm. He has started a series of videos on hypermiling, a subject which I am on record as deploring.
It's true. He is.
I get the point of it. I'm glad it's mostly gone away in 2018. But Tony's making some really good points. He's put together an amazing intro video, which you can watch on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/whatdrivesus. Do check out Tony's first episode of his hypermiling series, and the rest of them when he gets them out. It's good. It's very good.
Yeah, thanks. I felt kind of weird making one and saying subscribe to the channel where you'll find all the other videos, because I was like, I had to plan for the future and when there would be more. But so I figure someone's going out there like, hey, where's all these other videos?
You're going to catch some flack if you don't show up with those videos. You
I know.
realize this, right?
Now I'm on the hook.
Box ticket.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
I've already sent you a note
God, that's
asking for the next one.
That's all I can say. That is just beautiful.
Tony's so desperate for mail, he'll take 8 mail.
It's true. Yeah.
I don't know. I said the other day, I posted a quick thank you to everybody on the YouTube channel. And I said, you know what? If you hate something I've done enough, but you care enough to like actually take the time to type a comment, I'm cool with that, because at least you cared enough, you know, like I'll take it. Don't get me wrong. No, I'm not the trolls, not the idiots, but I mean, if you actually have like a legit, because I've made some mistakes and people have pointed them out and I'm like, yep, mea culpa. Totally. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guilty. So that's the first thing. So do go to
Ed, what do you think about all the hate mail?
I'm just used to it now. It's just like,
You're
what
callous.
my email inbox? Delete. Okay, shouldn't have deleted that. Undelete.
Delete. Hey, that's original. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep that one.
No, actually, it's
You
funny.
should
I
have
joke,
a collection of
but
the
really,
best
to
hate
be
mails.
to be honest, like I used to get a lot of hate mail, and actually these days I don't as much, and I'm not sure why that is. But it's actually gone down. So I mean, it never goes away completely, and I've definitely had to block a couple people on Twitter and stuff. But it's actually, I feel like I must be doing something right, just because it's not as bad as it used to be, or maybe people are just used to me now and they know what to expect, and I just don't rile them up as much. Which,
Maybe they're blocking you.
yeah, can't really blame them.
Maybe you just don't matter as much. Oh, that hurts.
Yeah, no, it's,
Oh,
yeah, it's
Oh,
fine with me,
man.
honestly. Yeah.
One of the clips that I cut, that I recorded and then I cut it, was something to the effect of, if you enjoyed this video, make sure and subscribe to the channel. And if you hated this video and enjoyed writing hateful things in the comment section, subscribe to this channel and you'll know when you can do it again.
I mean, I am convinced that a lot of people, mostly, whether they realize it or not, mostly use the internet to get mad about stuff. Like, I think a lot of people deeply enjoy getting mad about things. And like, there are clearly a lot of people who just, that's what the internet is for them. And so I think your marketing approach is a good one, because whether they know it or not, I think a lot of people tune in just to get mad.
Right. Just like the family organizations, whatever. Like, I watched Deadpool 13 times to count the number of times he said the F word. Like, but you just watched it 13 times, you know, stupid shit
Right.
like that. Yeah.
People just want to feel something, and anger's easy. So hey, look, they did it.
Right.
And you know what? I mean, it's not like, the magical thing about the internet is you could be angry and post, and get your word out. Whereas before, what could you do? Like write a letter to the editor of the newspaper and maybe they publish it, maybe they don't. You know what I mean? Like at least people feel like they can express their anger, their mindless rage, their... Oh, wait, that's me. I'm sorry.
I was just trying to figure out the lowest form of internet troll, and it just occurred to me that anyone who writes hateful comments on cat videos.
Oh God, I saw something like that. I don't remember what it was, but it was like the most little and yeah, it was a heartwarming little tender, genuine thing. And somebody wrote like, I know what it was. I don't even like the movie. Someone said The Sound of Music was a horrible movie because the family didn't fight back. Really? You went there? Like, oh my God, you went there?
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm like, of all the reasons to hate that movie.
Yeah, right.
Right.
I mean, I can't stand it, but I get it. And there goes the hate mail. Sound of Music is a classic. Russell hates it. It's just not my thing.
You just lost another sponsor.
I just lost another sponsor. That was what
the producers of The Sound of Music are not going to trust.
That's it. That's it. You're just appeasing the Nazis. That's what.
Yeah, exactly.
Glock, gun, a German gun.
Here we go. We're not going to get to
Now
anything.
you're going to get hate mail for implying that both Glock and The Sound of Music are German when in fact they're Austrian.
Yeah, right. They're Austrian. Right.
Hang on. What's your email address?
It's Russell.Frost.
Yeah. Go ahead. R Frost at no. This is delicious.
Right.
First story tonight comes from Green Tech Media. And Julian Spector wrote on June 6th for Green Tech. The headline is residential batteries almost beat out utility scale deployments last quarter. And what does that mean? Well, that means that more people are buying residential storage devices to store electricity. And that's a good thing. Decentralizing the grid, as we have spoken about many, many times here. Maybe I've spoken about it too much, but is a good thing. And now that there are more consumer choices for that, Green Tech is noting that residential deployments beat commercial deployments 15.9 megawatts versus commercial 11.7 megawatts, according to the Energy Storage Monitor. I guess that's a Green Tech.
That's a thing now?
I don't know. It sounds very but look here's the thing. Storing electricity in your home is cool. It makes sense. And it's a good thing. It's not cheap, but there it is. And I want to just mention that because I think it's something we should encourage.
Does anybody have a chart on the vendors? Like, is it Tesla, the big player still, or are there other companies in the space now?
Obviously Tesla has their Powerwall 2.0.
Right.
LG has at least one product that I'm aware of that is very popular. I know Nissan is rolling out something with refurbished Leaf batteries, but sadly, my in-depth knowledge is not very in-depth.
Mercedes had a line of, or they were going to offer a line of products, I guess, and they actually backed away from that.
Yeah, they dropped it right away, didn't they?
Is it because it wasn't the best, so they went with nothing?
Touche.
I think Russell put his finger on it that it is expensive. Batteries are expensive, and I think especially as more EVs come on the market, that actually the supply is it's something that a lot of like fans of EVs don't really look at a lot. Unfortunately, is like the upstream supply. Right, you have to get the minerals out of the ground. You got to process them into battery grade materials. You got to turn those into cells. You got to turn them into packs. Especially as you get upstream in that, if EVs continue to grow, actually demand for those upstream feedstocks and battery grade materials are going to get more expensive. Of course, you get economies of scale that balances that out. But I think the upshot is that like buying batteries to sit in your house. And I don't mean to be dismissive. I like the idea of distributed grid stuff, but I think the reality is that it's hard to charge much of a profit margin on a battery itself compared to a battery with a car around it. And if you're a big car company, it can make the car itself like relatively cheaply, and especially if you're able to stitch it in this premium space that Tesla has helped carve out. That's just a better, you just get more money out of your given, kilowatt hour of cells. So I think that's going to be a bit of a factor on and then of course you have the whole policy thing and everything else. But
yeah, I mean, financially, it doesn't make sense right now. Batteries are expensive. You can buy a generator cheaper. You can even buy a nice commercial grade generator cheaper than you can a battery, but you've got to connect it to a fuel source. It's almost always fossil fuels. It takes maintenance. It takes a little matter of time to come on. Most of the batteries are engineered to come on right away if there's a power interruption. Batteries are a nicer alternative, but they're still expensive. I mean, Tesla's ever increasing price on the Powerwalls jacked up another $300 in the last couple of months. It's about $8,500 installed. So, it's that's not it for 13.5 kilowatt hours of storage. That is not, it's not cheap by any means.
Yeah.
But,
unless you're in a high demand utility market like San Diego or something.
Yeah. And even then, I don't know that the ROI makes sense,
Right.
but there are some parts of San Diego, for instance, and again, I don't want to get too specific, but I mean, where SDG&E has had problem with wildfires with their power lines causing wildfires. So what their SDG&E solution has been to turn the residential customers off when there are high winds.
Oh,
Literally.
jeez.
Wow.
Fuck you, click, and they're off for a weekend or they're off for 2 or
man.
3 days. And those people stream it, to buy generators and stuff. And I know that certainly something like a battery backup is very appealing to them.
Yeah.
What has Tony got here? Tony has deployed the graph from this story
From the
about
yeah.
residential energy storage deployments.
So in the article, it talks about when they started tracking in 2013, you have to zoom in so you can see the sliver of a couple pixels. That was at the beginning of 13. And then you move along and you just see this trend until, look at that. Huge.
That's
So-
pretty cool.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I got to think a lot of that's Tesla, just because of the name recognition.
it does say California and Hawaii account for 74% of all home systems deployed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it
Makes
really-
sense. They have
So-
expensive power in both of those states.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe, they very expensive power in both places like that.
Very expensive power. And so the feds right now are giving you a 30% tax credit on batteries if it's installed with a solar system. And California has what's called SGIP, which can give them another like $3,000, I think, max. So that literally brings the cost of that storage battery down to a couple of grand.
Wow.
That's yeah.
Good deal.
Why people who are aggressive with their taxes have been making money. Tony, I think you have a story about electricity too.
Speaking of which, yes. And I have another chart that.
Enough with the charts, Tony.
Okay. Well, okay. I'll give you. Okay. Spoiler. It goes up and to the right. So
Whoa.
I'm talking about the
First one,
chart.
buddy.
Yes. So we were talking about, batteries, energy storage, and whatever. Well, according to the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, plug-in electric vehicles consumed almost 2 terawatts of electricity last year in the U.S. So the chart that I'm not allowed to put up shows it goes back to 2010, 2011, where it's just a sliver of anything and grows rather substantially, to which in 2017 it's 1.94 terawatts. So we're getting a lot more cars on the road, and it just goes to show that they're consuming a lot of electricity, and as long as we're greening the grid, then that's a really good thing.
Well, we're greening the grid more than we're greening gasoline.
That is true.
Right. And you have to remember that gasoline uses electricity to be refined in about the same amount that an EV uses per mile. So you're cutting out the middleman there.
So an interesting point of comparison, and I don't mean to be, of course, I don't mean to be a downer about stuff, but it's an interesting context.
But it's in your nature.
Globally, Bitcoin consumed an estimate 32 terawatt hours of power a year. So I mean, again, this is, 2 terawatts is for the US. And again, like the important thing is that the graph is growing, right? But unfortunately, there are other things that are consuming a lot of energy too. If only EVs were growing as fast, the energy consumption was growing as fast as Bitcoin. But
there's that story of the gentleman that took his Tesla and outfitted it with a number of different bits of computer wizardry so that he could plug into a supercharger and mine Bitcoin at the same time.
Yes, I remember that.
I remember that. Yeah.
that currently has is in the lead for most 2018 story. We'll see if we've got a couple months left. We'll see how.
You got to throw in a couple more hashtags. See
I
what
wonder if the Tesla owner's agreement says you can't put a server farm in your trunk.
Yeah.
They're going to have to update that.
That just seems unnecessarily restrictive.
But I had my hands on the steering wheel the whole time.
Yeah, there's that too, right?
Well, that is the reason that the Model X can now tow, is that they're now making the server farm on its own
Bitcoin
trailer.
server farm on a
That's
trailer.
right.
Oh, so yeah, that guy might have skewed this data right here. He's probably half
Exactly,
the electricity use of the EVs.
If anything, they should just have a special edition that comes with a bunch of GPUs, like
Bitcoin edition.
for mining.
Nice. I don't even get it. Well, next up, I want to talk about safety. And we're going to circle back to Ed, because Ed published an entire story on safety at the Tesla factory in the Daily Beast. Was it last week, Ed, or week before?
Yeah, I think it was last week. Or the week before, one of the two.
But a brief, by way of introducing that, this has happened since then. I don't think you talked about this Ramirez lawsuit, right?
No, I did not.
So Carlos Ramirez was started at Solar City, and then, of course, when the merger happened, was working at Tesla. He was a director for environmental health and safety and sustainability, and he is suing Tesla because he's alleging that he was fired in retaliation for reporting unsafe working conditions. And that's all I'm going to go with. And then I'm going to let Ed talk about those unsafe working conditions.
Yeah. Well,
Was that a bad intro, Ed? I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. So my piece it talked about the safety issue, but that was kind of just one piece of it. And what I was trying to do with the piece is sort of illustrate the kind of broader issue. And this was a really tough story. I mean, first of all, getting people to talk was really hard. Getting the Daily Beast lawyers to say that, what we could, that we could get enough stuff in there to run. And then also sort of explaining how all this stuff ties together to sort of a mainstream audience like the Daily Beast was really tough. And I think that's, if I could kind of go back and do it again, which again, I mean, we went over that thing again, and there were like 4 different legal reviews and it was a whole thing. As a blogger by background, I was not used to that level of like, spending weeks and weeks and weeks on a story after I felt like it was already, written. But the important thing I think is that, it's easy to look at the safety stuff and that it does matter, right? The safety of workers is important. It matters both for the health of the business and obviously just as a moral thing. But what I was trying to illustrate with my piece was sort of that this is one of many consequences of Tesla's entire philosophy of manufacturing. And this is something, I've been on the show before and I've ranted about Tesla manufacturing before. And I think if I can bring something to this conversation that's being had about safety and about other things, and I think these individual things like the safety, and like also in my piece I talked about fires in the paint shop, these individual things kind of grab the attention, and a lot of times people think they're important in and of themselves, and I guess they are. It's news that these things have happened, but to me what makes them important is the fact that they all are intertwined with this and flow out of sort of some of the fundamental decisions that Tesla makes about manufacturing. And the biggest one is basically just rushing into production and not doing the sort of standard, multiple years of testing your production system, both at the supplier, then at the plant, doing validation, run of production, all these things. And really, like, it kind of seems to come down to Tesla wants to do everything fast. It seems to be much more optimized around or optimizing for public perception and stock price than it does in terms of, like, optimizing for actual execution. Because I think, they've done this before. That's the crazy thing to me about this, is that they kind of did a lot of the same stuff with Roadster, with Model S, and Model X. They kind of make a lot of the same mistakes over and over again. They're just sort of, the consequences are bigger now because they're a bigger company, they have more employees, which creates more management challenges. They're trying to build these cars at a cheaper price point, higher volumes. There's more scrutiny because they haven't really made money so far. And so things are just kind of building to a head here, but the culture of not really appreciating why it is that car makers take the time to test and validate and train and really, like, build things up. Like, this is why you don't hear other car companies talking about production hell. And I think that all of the things, whether it's the injuries, whether it's the just sort of chaotic situation that you hear about in the factory, whether it's the quality problems, whether it's their inability to hit production targets, all of these things come out of sort of the fundamental decision to just kind of wander into this and iterate as you go, which works really, really well for software and is sort of hyped as, like, or like presented as a, this is just a Silicon way of doing things. And I think there are really good reasons. And what we're seeing in all of these different stories are sort of the reasons why, the rest of the manufacturing sector doesn't do things this way, why they take their time, they test and test and test, they get manufactured, they prove to themselves that they can manufacture at a certain point before they even say, look, here's the cars, we're delivering them, this is a real thing. So that to me, I think, is if people take anything away from all of these, each one of these stories is fascinating and you can, really get a lot out of them. But I think the kind of how they're all connected is, to me, the interesting and important part of this.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting incidents and things, like you said. They're in and of themselves, they make good stories. But yeah, you're right. You weave them all together, a pattern does start to emerge.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's Tesla. A big part of this is that Tesla, they're demonstrating the mixed blessing of having real passionate support. The benefits are obvious to having hardcore passionate supporters. They support you. They go out and they advocate for you and they advertise for you and they make a lot of things so easy. But I think that a little bit of the fan culture and which definitely clearly spills into the investment space has created a situation where Tesla hasn't had to be. They always know they can go raise capital, so they don't have to be really operationally tight and justify everything the way companies that kind of struggle to get capital do. And so, and then, they have, customers say, well, there are these horrible problems, but I love the car so much, I'm not gonna make a big deal out of it. And really patient with them. I think a lot of these things, it's not that Tesla just sucks at this. I think the feedback loops actually, both internally in the company, with the company and the media, with the company and their customers and fans, like there's this lack of critical feedback loops that force the company to operate tightly, on a lean basis, efficiently, high quality, all these other things. And so really, like, the passion that Tesla has engendered in a lot of people, I see it as having some kind of a little bit of a dark side, and I think that's part of this broader situation too.
Ed, do you not see this as something that Tesla going from a small manufacturer to a mid-size or larger manufacturer, are these things systemic of someone going from small to large, and it's kind of like stepping blocks that as they get larger, some of these things do get addressed?
Well, so all of these things kind of come back to culture, which is why the feedback loops are such a big part of this. And the American automakers sort of ran into major cultural problems of their own that were tied to sort of this sense of invincibility and complacency. And this was a century ago. Up until the bailout of 2008, which was sort of the ultimate consequence of that. But that took a long time to play out. But even before the bailout, they were starting to really actually they had been for several decades in some cases, to varying degrees, been recognizing that there was a problem, that they were trying to address it. And the culture was different. They had more, the Detroit companies had more of like a management culture issue, specifically. And although it obviously it's all connected, right? The management culture and the sort of shop floor culture are absolutely connected. And there was a complacency there. They're different, but what it does show is that culture takes a long time to fix if it's not going well. And that to me is like the biggest reason why I am pessimistic about Tesla in the short to medium term, is that it is very hard to change a company's culture once it becomes established. And I think that and that's why I also think, if there's one point at which Tesla had a chance to really put themselves on a good footing to get into the mass market car space, I think it was their partnership with Toyota. I know I've said this on the show as well before, but I think that was an opportunity, since Toyota is the masters of culture. They've turned culture, company culture, manufacturing culture specifically, into a science. That partnership was a real opportunity for Tesla to do this. And the thing is that at the time, they didn't need it. At the time, they just wanted the factory. They just wanted a customer for their battery packs. They wanted the development work on the RAV4 EV and things like that. They thought that they were getting a pretty sweet deal from Toyota. They got investment from them. It was a great partnership in a lot of ways. But what they didn't see was that, okay, down the road, not today, not tomorrow, but several years from now, we want to be in the mass market car, right? Manufacturing affordable cars at scale. The complexity and the challenge of that is something that our culture, which is fine for like the small volume, high margin, sort of premium luxury type company that they were then, it was fine. They've been able to get away with it so far because it doesn't really matter. Look at Ferrari's, quality is not the best in the industry by a long shot. And that's okay for them. But they also aren't planning on building 500,000 to 1 million, $35,000 cars a year. And so Tesla, basically, the short version is that Tesla really needed to see that honestly, in 2006, Elon Musk was really serious about the master plan blog post. He should have been starting the process of orienting his company's culture around mass manufacturing then, because that's the kind of time frame that would have taken 12 years really seriously to build up the capacity and to have that cultural orientation to pull off something like going from 100,000 high-end 6-figure cars a year to, in the matter of just a couple of years, 500,000 and growing even more, sort of more affordable cars. I mean, it's a little bit like launching rockets in your backyard, amateur hobby sort of rocket launching, then going from that to landing a man on the moon. These are, and people say like, oh, the volumes don't look that different between 100,000, 200,000 units a year and 5, 6, 7, 8, 900,000 million. But the order of, there is a serious, to use the Elonism, it's an order of magnitude difference in complexity and management challenge. And anybody who's been in a company that's grown, and you can see when you're really small, you have 3 people in your company, you bring in 2 people to that company, managing the culture and that kind of change is really, really hard. Well, Tesla has gone, from not very many people to 37 or whatever thousand people, less maybe as of the next week, but in a short amount of time. And so I think, again, if they were always serious about the master plan, they needed to be planning and building for this moment a long time ago. And it's pretty clear to me that they didn't.
I think
hence their production health.
Well, yeah. So the way that Toyota does it is not the only way that is possible. I absolutely agree with you that safety is vital and part of. So actually, you might know this. Historically, has Tesla's injury rate in their factory been significantly higher than the rest of the industry?
Yeah. Reveal and WorkSafe studied this, and just based on their stuff.
Yeah. So the data that I saw, they were last year they were a little bit higher, but they were not out of line. They were not multiple deviations off the mean. They were slightly higher. So I haven't seen like, oh, it's a huge problem. But like everything Tesla does, it's under a magnifying glass.
Yeah, I mean the whole media issue is a separate part of it. Again, no one person can say, whether the accuracy of this, or whether, there's never going to be fair and balanced media coverage of anything, right? So that's just a starter. And like you said, to me, this is why these subjects or the individual stories are interesting, is that to me they're part of this wider problem. And I think one of the things that I would say is a valid critique of a lot of the media, and probably even my piece probably didn't do as well as it could have in explaining how these are all interrelated. And the challenge of writing for, especially as you get into these mainstream outlets, is that they want the sexy stuff. They do. It's not because they're anti-Tesla. It's just because they want subjects that people are interested in, and juicy details. Like, those are the two things the media outlets want. Now, Tesla has, not by accident, become a subject that a lot of people are interested in. And Tesla has also, not by accident, generated a lot of juicy details.
And profited from those juicy details. And profited from all that free exposure.
Yeah.
Let's make no mistake, they don't advertise. They have no marketing. All of Tesla's exposure in the world is through news and word of mouth.
Both positive and negative.
Both positive and negative. But, I think what's interesting here, and I'm just curious, and I don't know, and maybe you don't know, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Safety figures for Tesla. You said they're close to the industry mean.
They're below. They've been below. They're actually getting better. And sources that I've talked to have said that management has definitely, basically, since the reporting happened. See, and this is the irony, is that Tesla, I'm a victim. Well, since the reporting has come out and there's been a lot more media focus on it, they've actually gotten better. And I don't think the two are unrelated. And so that's an argument to me for more coverage, not less. But and I think, obviously that should be reappraised if and when the numbers come out and Tesla's at or above. And Elon has once again said, meeting the industry average isn't enough. We have to go so much further beyond, and it's a good goal. But I think the important part is that intentions can only matter so much when you are creating a situation where people's jobs on the factory floor are changing all the time because the production system itself is iterating all the time. That's actually a major driver of injuries. And so, and most people said at the investor meeting that, most of the injuries are sort of repetitive stress stuff. But one of the reasons that you test your production system for months and months and months before you launch production is that so you have real world data on the ergonomics of that system. Each job, it's understood what are the repetitive stresses and how can we, right? Instead of iterating like more automation to less automation or whatever, you make little tweaks within each individual. And I'm talking about like individual movements that a worker is making on the line. You do those in a way to reduce the ergonomic stress. And when you're under constant changes, your focus is just getting the cars made, matching the production targets that you set like a year ago. That's the focus. And unfortunately, like the ergonomic strain is going to be a sort of secondary at best concern for you. And so as long as that's sort of the general situation, there's only so much that Tesla's going to be able to do to improve safety. So again, it doesn't mean they can't get it above the average, which I think is clearly they think they need to do that. So that's doable. But I wouldn't expect Tesla to become the safest car factory in the industry simply because the fundamental approach is one that is more likely to cause constraints because they just don't test the processes as much as others do.
Patrick, I'm trying to give you some space here.
Well, I'm certainly not going to argue that they should do anything that would hurt workers. That's just ridiculous.
Right. No, I don't.
So, yeah, the part about Tesla's culture means that they're long-term doomed. I absolutely disagree with. Just because they're not doing things the way that Toyota does, and that's apparently Ed's favorite manufacturing company, and doesn't mean that there aren't other ways to do things. And they're making a whole different type of car. It has 1/6 the parts, and they're going to do things different because they have a different culture. So I'm fine with that. I don't think I have to copy them.
I'm not. I think the one of the main things that I agree with Ed on here is that Tesla's biggest advantage is also its biggest weakness, and that is that echo chamber. that Tesla lives in, where there's this polarized group of people, some of whom are fans and some of whom are quote unquote detractors or short sellers or whoever, whatever, that Tesla doesn't get the kind of feedback that other companies get, whether it's from the press or whether it's from car owners. If car owners have problems, it's their problem. I've seen it over and over again. We've seen it. We've talked about it here, where if somebody complains too much, Elon cancels their order. Now, sometimes those people are jerks and they deserve it. But I mean, on the other hand, you have to listen to somebody on the outside at some point. I think Ed's point about Toyota isn't that I won't. Ed's right here. I won't speak for him. But what I got out of what he's saying isn't that Tesla should be Toyota. It's that Tesla could learn from Toyota. But Tesla's, in my opinion, corporate arrogance has been that we're innovating, we're going to do it our way, and they're making a lot of mistakes that other companies have already made. And in some cases, that's compromised safety. In some cases, that's compromised product quality. And they could possibly learn from another company and modify the way they're doing it.
So yeah, I'll disagree right there. So if they're learning from another company, they're going to learn their systems. They're going to learn, and that also comes with their baggage. If you instead go out and make your own mistakes, you're going to learn what things you shouldn't do, and you don't take on that. Oh, we do it this way because that's the way that we were told to do it. Instead, if you're the one that does it, you learn what works, you learn what doesn't work, you learn why it doesn't work, you learn what you can do around it. It's like having a black box of, oh, we do this because that's the way we were told to do it. If you really want to innovate, you cannot have those black boxes that are sacred and you don't touch them. So and if you're copying somebody else, you have that.
Yeah, I agree with that. From a manufacturing point of view and a product quality, I mean, Toyota knows how to build cars. They've spent half a century figuring it out. And ask anybody in the repair shop business, their cars are well designed, they don't break, and they're consistently among the top, 10 best reliable cars.
Yeah, and one of actually the points of confusion here too is it's called the Toyota Production System, and it was developed at Toyota. Or there's sort of two things: there's Toyota Production System, and then there's like the Toyota Way. And they were developed at Toyota, but they've both basically been adopted by everybody in the manufacturing space. That's the thing I think that people. It's like it's not copy Toyota. Everybody already has copy Toyota. Toyota is now the Toyota, production system principles are basically table stakes, right? So it's not like, it's some huge, Toyota has some huge massive advantage. I mean, and the other part of this that's important to understand is that these principles are very flexible. They're not prescriptive at all. I mean, there are some cultural principles, but they're very fundamental. It's like, ask why 5 times and like go and see it. And like, just, there are these basic principles. So it's not like adopting the principles, and these are called, lean, and there's all different kinds of offshoots of this too. So it's not just one specific thing. It's a set, it's sort of a cultural, operating system code kind of a thing that can be, it's self-adapted. You can take parts that you want and not others that you don't. And it's really fundamental. And like I say, it's flexible. It does not really lock you down in the way that it might seem. So, yeah, I definitely don't, I'm not saying, Tesla should go out and just copy Toyota. I think it's just understanding and appreciating what are at this point the fundamental principles of manufacturing. And when Elon talks about manufacturing, it sounds like he's read a lot of books about Henry Ford and how manufacturing was done about a century ago. And it seems like he still has not really read so much up on these principles or doesn't appreciate them, or I'm not really sure what the deal is there.
I'm sorry, Paul, do you have anything else you were kind of?
No, I was just saying that Toyota's whole system on how they build cars for quality and longevity is incredible, and everybody's been trying to copy it or use pieces of it to improve their products, and not just in cars, as Ed says, in other industries. But they really did some groundbreaking work back in the day.
Yeah. So Patrick, I guess the question, and I don't mean to just bounce this at you, but I get I totally get that if you make your own mistakes and you learn from them and you improve, that you could possibly be innovating something that nobody else has. Or
Right.
you could just be painfully, expensively, at the cost of product quality and safety, reinventing the wheel on your own because you're too arrogant to look at what other companies are doing. I'm not making a judgment on Tesla. I don't know. History, time will show us which one was right. Is Tesla inventing, Elon's whole thing of like, it's the machines that make the machines or whatever bullshit that is. I get it, but time will tell. If Elon's right, then Elon's right. And he's going to stand on top of everybody and go, I made this all by myself. And damn it, he sure did. If not, Tesla ends up as a company that just didn't want to learn from anybody else.
I think Tesla could have started by making kick-ass electric vehicles, but using the same principles that other manufacturing companies used.
Oh,
You know what
yeah.
I
They
mean?
could have just been a design company and even outsourced all the manufacturing.
Right, they could have. Or they could have used common manufacturing practices and just made a kick-ass car.
Or they could have
And-
just stuck to expensive, small volumes of expensive cars. I think they've had the social sort of big picture impact without, they haven't delivered a $35,000 Model 3. I don't think they have to. They've already had the impact. I think they could have been all along just a luxury, small volume premium car company and had a similar impact to what they've had. And if you are that kind of company, again, you look at Ferrari or Land Rover or whatever, they don't have the greatest quality either. And it's because they don't have to. Rich people who are buying toys don't need, the car to be bulletproof, reliable. They just don't.
In Land Rover's case, that's definitely. Yeah. Hey, Tony had a question or grabbed a question out of the chat room that I wanted to bounce past Ed real quick. So Ed, here's the question. Would the UAW win a vote at NUMMI plant right now to unionize? And if not, why don't the workers at Tesla want the UAW? And I know you don't have any inroad to the staff there. I'm just, what's your vibe on that?
Well, I would say, it's interesting. We have an interesting labor system in this country, right? Where essentially the UAW kind of has a monopoly on auto representation. And I think that that's kind of a drag because, frankly, you only have to read a little bit of news about the UAW to know that as an institution, they have plenty of their own problems, right? And I think there's been the recent news. There's the indictments continue, the allegations from the federal government continue about sort of the collusion with Fiat Chrysler. And they've just, it's a political and a politicized organization. There's a lot of UAW has a lot of baggage as an institution. And I think that's one of the, ways in which Germany has a much better system than we do, which is that they have unions that are like the UAW, but plant matters are done through what's called a works council that is just specific to that factory. So it's a body of workers that get together from that factory. You have to be a member of a union, but then you can choose which union you want to belong to. No one has a monopoly. They have to compete with each other. I just see that system as being a lot better. And so, because I think, it is a tough decision if I were working at the factory, for example, in Fremont, based on what I know and everyone that I've spoken with there, I do see the need for workers to have a voice. I think that it would actually be good for Tesla as a whole to do that. It would be inconvenient in the short term. Certainly Elon would probably hate it, but I think it would actually be good on the whole, because I think it would force the company to slow down and take their time, which would actually be good for them. It would be doing them a favor. So I think there's a win-win here. The challenge is, convincing people that the UAW as an institution is really one that you want to invite in. And I totally get that concern because I've covered the UAW for years. Not specifically, but I've written about them and I've read about them, and I get it. Like, I get anybody who's like, I don't want the UAW. I understand that. And it's unfortunate that we have a system where that's kind of the only choice. So I'm not going to predict whether or not, like, how a vote would go. My guess is if there was a vote right now, they probably would not. I would guess that the UAW would lose that vote. But they typically tend to try and go in and have like a number of votes, and they tend to do better over time and eventually get in. If management isn't addressing workers' complaints. So at the moment, I don't think they would, but I also think that if it's not because workers probably are by and large convinced that there isn't a need for more of a voice. It's just that they only have that one choice, and it's not a great one.
I'm going to just toss in really quick that I bet the 10% of the people that got fired in December would probably support the UAW.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another example of this, like, why rushing into stuff is problematic. It's like, I've seen people on the subreddit and stuff saying, yeah, well, okay, maybe they're firing, 9% of the workforce. They hired so many more people, and net they're still growing their headcount and everything, and that's all true. Doesn't mean it's good management. It's still terrible management to overhire and then fire people. Like, you don't want it. Creates morale issues in the company. It creates public relations issues. It hurts your the competition for talent. I mean, there's just lots of ways where it just and it's just a waste of money.
Yeah, huge waste of money.
Huge waste of money, and so it's not good, man. There's no way to sugarcoat it as a management issue. It shows, again, it's another data point, right, of what I see as many that show that just they're just kind of flailing. They're kind of taking it one day at a time, which, if you're an alcoholic or something, that's the right way to do it. If you're a manufacturing company, that's really not the right way to do it.
Well, there you go.
All right.
Come on. Anybody?
No, I was just going to shout out to David who posted that question in the chat room.
Thanks, David.
Great question.
Yeah.
Hey, related to that, there was a tweet where Elon said that if they unionized, they would lose their stock. And then someone said, what? You would take their stock away? And he said, no, the union rules don't allow them to be shareholders.
No, the union rules don't. That's not what he said.
He
Okay.
said,
What? Yeah. So explain it to me, please.
He said something. I don't have the thing in front of me. I'm blocked by him, but he
wait. Let's relish that for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, you can go on now.
All right. I can look it up real quick. He did not say, and
looking.
The union does not forbid ownership. I mean, remember, the UAW owned 40+% of Chrysler. Of course, it was through their Viva trucks and everything. But absolutely, like, it's just what he said was that they don't have that kind of agreement with other companies. In other words, no other company is giving their employees stock as compensation. And frankly, I would rather own Tesla stock than probably a lot of the other automaker stocks too. So it's kind of understandable, but it's certainly, I think that was dangerous ground for him to get into, and I'm not sure
Elon's quote, Elon's tweet, and I quote, "Nothing stopping Tesla team at our car plant from voting union. Could do so tomorrow if they wanted, but why pay union dues? And give up stock options for nothing." Unquote.
Yeah, I mean, he's making the case that he's like union neutral, right? That it's up to them, but that was an implicit threat. It was implicit in two ways. One, that in order to get a union, you would have to give up stock options, which again, the union has said that there's nothing that prevents that. Or that
right, but they haven't negotiated that for any other company.
They haven't negotiated any other, but it's not like we won't come to the table if one of your offers is stock. Like there's no rule against it. There's no.
Elon isn't unusual.
Does anybody know when it was NUMMI? Was there a union there, or was it non-union?
Yeah, it was UAW. In fact, Tesla bought the old Union Hall and uses it as a parking lot now.
Wasn't it the only union Toyota factory in the U.S.?
It was, yeah. And it was because NUMMI, it was a GM only factory, and it was probably the worst in the country. In fact, I think it was definitely the worst in the country. There's a great Marketplace or This American Life.
This American Life, it's wonderful.
Fantastic show on this. Look it up. NUMMI, This American Life, you'll find it.
When it was GM, it was awful.
It was GM. It was terrible. And Toyota agreed to come in and make it a joint venture, and they learned. And so it's actually fascinating. There are some folks from the NUMMI days left at Toyota, and it's always interesting to talk to them because they tend to have a kind of deep appreciation for what Toyota is able to bring into a manufacturing environment, because some of them saw how bad it was in battle days of GM and saw Toyota come in, and the change, like again, they talk about this in This American Life episode, it was really dramatic. It went from being one of the worst factories in quality and absenteeism and all these other metrics to one of the best. And actually one of the really interesting parts was that GM then had this real internal struggle about like, you know, clearly we need to adopt this, but also it wasn't invented here. And so, you know, it's actually a little bit like Tesla of like, you know, we're not going to just copy some other company just because it's working. So anyway, Mimi was a very interesting test case, which makes, I think it's like a level of historical irony now that Tesla is going into that same factory and kind of acting like, you know, the lessons that were learned there decades ago don't matter somehow.
Well, as a captain of this ship, I have a decision to make because this show's basically over. And I'm guessing that none of you want to stay for another half an hour. So I'm going to unfortunately have to wrap this up.
Yeah,
and we can continue this.
I'm
dude, look at me. What's going on here? The Pizza Hut glass is empty.
Pizza Hut.
Which means, hey.
Lost another sponsor.
Do not. I don't care about Pizza Hut. Fuck them. I'm a Pizza Hut beer glass.
Okay. Is it still the International House of Pizza?
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. It's not Pizza Port. Believe me. Anyway. So why don't we do some shout outs and go home? How is that sound?
That sounds great.
Patrick, let's start with you.
All right. You can find my scribblings at carswithcords.net, and I am with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find them at oeva.org. Thanks.
And OEVA, definitely one of the must follows on Twitter and on Facebook. Really good. Patrick does a wonderful job. When he's not baiting me on the What Drives Us news feed, he's posting great news. One more shitty electric motorcycle thing, and I'm coming to Portland. Okay.
Oh, how'd you like the turbo-powered one with the gas jets?
Stop! I just don't even know
which is now what the Roadster's going to do. So they took that shitty motorcycle idea, and there you go.
There it is. There it is. How about you, Mr. Guzik?
I'm just going to plug Boulder Hybrids, boulderhc.com. We fix hybrids and EVs and can help you buy a used hybrid or EV if you're in the Boulder, Denver region. Look us up.
Absolutely. I keep forgetting that you can buy your vehicle from Paul, which is amazing.
He's going to be selling more cars than Ford, I hear.
Yeah.
which won't be hard in a year. Mr. Niedermeyer. Mr. Niedermeyer, Edward Niedermeyer. He's Tweetermeyer on Twitter. I'll let him do his own shoutouts.
So this last weekend, I had the distinct pleasure of being able to go visit a new vehicle factory in my hometown of Eugene, Oregon, which is not considered. This may, hope you're sitting down. It's not considered the industrial heartland of America. Yeah, unless you're talking about certain things that used to be illegal.
Or RVs. They make a lot of RVs there.
Well,
too.
Actually, that's one of the interesting things is they don't anymore. We've lost almost all of the RV manufacturing down in the southern Willamette Valley, which is actually part of what has helped this company, Arcimoto, hire talent. Is that there's actually people with manufacturing talent who can be hired in the area, which is great. And so Arcimoto, they're making this three-wheeler thing that's kind of it's electric. It's like kind of trying to be fun, but also practically utilitarian. Anyway, I've got a piece about that coming up at some point in the near future from Ars Technica. It's my first time writing for them, which is cool. And so yeah, that's my point. Keep an eye out for that, and keep an eye on Arcimoto. I have no idea if they're going to make it. They definitely have a tough road ahead of them, even compared to Tesla.
Yeah.
But they're a hometown company for me, and it's fascinating to see that happen in a place where not a lot of manufacturing happens. So should be an interesting story. So
oh my God, I so want to talk to you for like an hour about Arcimoto.
Okay,
it's very interesting you brought that up.
All right, well, maybe I'll come back on another show. I feel bad. I feel like we always hijack it with Tesla, so maybe maybe I'll give you guys like a couple of weeks off without me, and then maybe I'll come back and after my piece comes out.
Maybe we should have some people from Arcimoto on.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they would love to.
You never know. Let's see, Mr. Coughlin.
Just a shout out to the Waterloo Region EVA as well as Waterloo Region Voltec. I've got some events coming up. Please follow us on Twitter at Waterloo Region EVA Group. So WREVA Group on Twitter.
This Saturday
in Vaughan, Ontario, which is part of Toronto, there's going to be a large meetup of Tesla Model 3s. So if you haven't seen one or if you have interest in the subject, you will see hundreds of them. Please, it's the second largest market in North America, apparently, and we're going to see them in mass. So 8 p.m. this Saturday at the Vaughan Supercharger. Please drop by if you have interest.
All you have to do is walk up to Mark and say the words, "What drives us?" in his ear, and he will let you drive his Model 3 anywhere you want.
Give me the keys to his Tesla.
Right. Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Russell. I appreciate that. The other thing I wanted to touch upon is I just saw this kind of article trying to make hydrogen normal. So I just throw this up. This is at a 76 station in Thousand Oaks, California.
Oh, no.
And they have
It's an ATM.
At best.
They've added an H2 fueling station to this particular 76 store. Apparently, it's the 33rd hydrogen fueling station in California,
which is almost as many supercharger stations Tesla has.
almost. But kind of interesting that this is still going. I don't know if it's practical again, if this is a growing thing, if this is part of a planned rollout, but spotted the article this week, thought I'd share it.
Very nicely done. Okay, Tony, I'm sorry. It's all yours, my friend.
Oh yeah. As usual, shout out to everyone in the chat room. We forgot to solicit for titles, so yeah, you all have like 2 minutes.
Show title: Tesla does not want to be Toyota. Thank you, Patrick Connor. Credit where it's due.
Yep. Also, make sure you. I don't know if you were going to do this, but
please.
YouTube.com/WhatDrivesUs, Facebook.com/WhatDrivesUs, Twitter @WhatDrivesUs, Instagram @WhatDrivesUsShow.
Nicely done.
Yeah, I forgot. Where else? Where else are we?
No, that's everywhere. I think we are right now. Yeah.
So, yeah, Instagram @WhatDrivesUsShow. Like Russell said, I'm going to be making a series of videos. Make sure and check those out. Like I said, I had a RAV4 hybrid last week. I have a Niro this week. And I am not going back and reshooting the video I've already shot just to change the name.
Then there'll be 2 reviews on our site. We're calling it the Niro. Okay.
Yeah.
So please have at it.
And I think that's it. Next week I will have a product placement. Just a little heads up.
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
A real sponsor?
Actually, a real sponsor. Believe it or not.
A sponsor?
Well, I don't know about a sponsor.
I'm going to pick not.
Okay, product placement. Hey, I got product placement, okay?
Yeah, there it is.
And Pizza Hut.
No. I just like the glass. That's all. Let's see. I need to thank, as always, Michael Mannering for our amazing theme music. Visit him at manthing.com. Tony told you all the places on social media. Even though I'm trying to treat him as a regular because I don't want him to feel special. Thanks to Ed for coming in this week. And Niro burns Tesla. Nice. That's good. That's
right. How about Tesla fiddles while Niro burns?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know if that works at all.
But we need the link bait. So it should say Elon Musk. And Paul, did I skip you? I'm so sorry. Did I not?
No, you did not skip. Wow, that Murphy's some good stuff.
Wow,
it's a Pizza Hut glass.
It's Murphy's. I had one glass, please.
On an empty stomach.
But do visit Paul at boulderhc.com if you're anywhere in Boulder, Colorado or near, and you need work on your hybrid or electric vehicle. there's only one person to see. It's this guy right here.
Yeah.
So thanks to Ed, thanks to Patrick, thanks to Tony, thanks to Mark, who might just be falling asleep, and thanks to Paul for coming on. Thanks to everybody in the chat room for showing up. As always, love to have you guys here. Tune in next week and find out what drives us. Yeah, well. See ya. I got to show this off because I had to take it off. Oh.
Yay.
Dun, 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 dun.
Thanks, everybody.
Microphone. Have a good week. Thank you.